Okay, good morning students. So we are going to begin the next module, module 3, which is environmental laws in Indian perspective. So in this particular module we are going to discuss about all the provisions, all the laws that have been framed in our country India from time to time to conserve, protect, preserve and monitor the environmental regulations, and to ensure environmental protection. Under this particular module we'll study about Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. We'll also get to learn about Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. We'll also study about the Environmental Protection Act, and very interestingly it is known as the Umbrella Act, because under the roof of the environmental protection laws all other laws in India are safeguarded and privileged. Okay, so we are going to cover two lectures in this particular module, Introduction to Environmental Laws and Policy. So first of all, what is the requirement for laws and policy? You know, if law is not made and if policies are not framed, then how we are going to govern things, how things are going to run, and how things are going to be monitored. Okay, there has to be law which has to be followed, there has to be agency which will ensure the enforcement and regulations of the laws, and those who are violating the laws have to be penalized, have to be given some sort of punishment. Okay, they have to be monitored and given a deterrent punishment so that the laws are not violated. Okay, and this all will ensure a healthy and prosperous world, society, okay, and a protective and secured pollution free environment. So Indian laws have been formed in that context only. So the importance of environmental laws, they help in preserving the biodiversity. You know, the rich flora, fauna, the biodiversity, everything has to be preserved, and for that environmental laws have to be maintained. Otherwise there will be unscrupulous and unchecked setting up of industries, suppose chopping down of trees, disturbance of the entire forest can be maybe destroyed, and their concrete jungle consisting of concrete buildings and all, okay, that may be made. So that will lead to huge amount of cutting of trees, chopping down of trees, reduction of forest area, and displacement and maybe death of the entire forest ecosystem, right? So which is not correct. There has to be a balance. You know, you must have heard about the term CAMPA, that is compensatory afforestation. Okay, which is basically a concept that if 4 or 5 trees are to be chopped down, then 10 trees should be planted in the vicinity, okay, so that to compensate the loss of chopping of the trees. Then health and well-being of every individual has to be ensured by maintaining the environmental laws. And sustainable development, sustainability is the very need of the hour. Okay, and for the sustainable development, basically what is required is laws to be framed properly, and they have to be implemented, regulated and monitored. So I have mentioned before Environmental Protection Act, EPA, which is the Umbrella Act. Then there is Wildlife Protection Act, that we will study. The Forest Conservation Act is there. Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act is there. Water Prevention and Control of Pollution 1974 Act is there. Okay, under the provisions of which basically the Central Pollution Control Board, which you must have heard, CPCB, and the State Pollution Control Board, the SPCB, they run the environmental impact assessment and clearing process. You know, students, before setting off of any industry, any factory, environmental impact has to be surveyed. Okay, what environmental impact that particular industry, that particular factory is going to exert upon the population, where the or upon the population residing in area where the mining or the factory has to be set up. Okay, there should be a common consensus between the public residing in that area and the industry persons who are going to set up the industry over that area. The proceeding has to be video recorded. Okay, for proceeding, the people, all the stakeholders who are going to be affected directly, indirectly, they have to be called. video recording of the proceeding has to be done. If all the consensus are if all the issues are raised, okay, if all the consensus are met, if all the resettlement and rehabilitation policy which the industry must ensure, if they are all done, okay, suppose people are losing their land, then they should be given compensation, okay, they should be given housing opportunities. If people are going to lose their day-to-day livelihood, then they should be compensated with some job opportunities. If the air is going to be polluted, then there should be provision for cleaning of the air, okay, compensatory afforestation, planting of more and more trees in the vicinity. Then there should be a closure plan also for that industry, particularly for mining industry. Unless there is a closure plan, the mining industry cannot be given green signal, okay, for setting up of the factory. So assessment has to be done, clearing process has to be followed, and there should be very rigorous. There is screening and scoping of the things, okay. Role of governmental agencies and bodies, they play a very crucial role, okay. They basically frame laws, they regularly monitor, okay, regulate the things. They are basically the coordinators, okay, they are expected to maintain the things smoothly. Then challenges and limitations in the implementation of environmental laws and policies. There are many challenges. First, there should be a proper law framing, and that should be rigorously followed, and the policies have to be in such a way that nobody is basically harassed in the process, okay. So the policies have to be framed, and then there should be agencies for monitoring and regulating the laws, and if anyone deliberately violates those laws, then they have to be given some stringent punishment, okay. They should be penalized, okay. So recent developments and amendments. So basically time to time these laws have to be amended, and some certain provisions are added or removed from the laws, okay. Time to time those development takes place. There are many amendments to the laws. So there are case studies where impact of environmental laws and policies, how they affect the area, okay. In this particular slide you can see two pictures. One on the right, where the sun is rising, okay, there is a forest area, there is a beautiful scenario over there, okay, forest ecosystem has been depicted, and in the left hand side there is a industry ecosystem, okay. All the components of a power plant have been shown: chimneys, stacks, boilers, demineralization plants, okay, steam chambers, everything has been depicted. So these are the two coins, okay, or two phases of developing or developed society. There has to be a balance between them, okay. Industrialization is also required, and then the greenery has also to be maintained. Otherwise, global warming, climate change, every issues that we are facing nowadays, they are due to the unscrupulous setting up of industries, cutting of trees, increasing of the vehicular emissions, increasing in amount of greenhouse gases which are trapping lot of heat, okay. And everywhere we are witnessing erratic weather conditions. Then under the provisions of the environmental laws, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act was enforced in 1974. You know, students, it was a legislative measure which aimed at preventing and controlling water pollution. Under the provisions of Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act only, basically the Central Pollution Control Board (CPCB) was set up. So the act regulated the discharge of pollutants into the water bodies, requiring industries and municipalities to obtain consent for effluent discharge. It also mandated penalties for non-compliance and promoted the treatment and disposal of sewage and industrial waste to protect and improve the water quality across the country. There were very important provisions of this particular act, which was passed in 1974. So there was establishment of a board, formation of state and central, central and state pollution control board were enforced. Regulation of pollutant discharge into the water bodies, industries, and they were required to obtain a consent before they discharge any kind of effluent. Water quality standards were set up, and in this context, basically drinking water standard IS 10500/2012 was formulated. Then there were penalties for basically those who violated. Okay, imposition of penalties for non-compliance, and that included fine and imprisonment, even revoking of the environmental clearance, everything included. Then promotion of measures for treatment and disposal of sewage and industrial waste was there, and public participation actually was very much needed, and that was also encouraged in the law. So in conclusion and future perspective of Indian environmental laws and policies, a goal has been set for sustainability by the end of year 2030. Okay, 2030 has been set as the sustainability goal year. India's strategic vision emphasizes achieving sustainable environmental goals by 2030. 5,000 biodiversity protections have been estimated. Okay, and there has been an estimate that a 40% decrease in emissions will be achieved. Okay, so these are all basically the postulates, these are all the visions, and that have to be achieved, and for that mass participation is required. So that's all for today, students. We'll again discuss further regarding this module in our next lecture. As of now, thank you everyone. Bye and take care.